Your first and last name, and then your job title and where you work.
Yep. So it's Ashley, Ashley, Clayton, Clayton. My job title is I'm a research associate at the Family Violence Research Lab, the Department of Psychiatry, Yale School of Medicine.
Okay.
So that won't fit on a screen.
That's fine. You can choose of that.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would probably just say research associate in the Department of Psychiatry.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
That's what I say.
Okay. So now we'll go into the questions. So first, tell me a little bit about your background and then how you ended up going to Georgetown College.
Yeah, so I grew up in Northern Kentucky, lived there my whole life. And I learned about Georgetown from actually two high school teachers I had, two of my favorite high school teachers actually, and the guidance counselor. They were all three GC alum, and they just felt like, hey, I think you'll fit in really well here. I thought I was going to go to Transy. That was just kind of, what I had thought I would do, and then I came to Georgetown and was like, I'll give it, a try, and I fell in love immediately. I visited Transy and was like, it's got nothing on Georgetown. So I ended up here in 2005.
Okay. So I have that you received your bachelor's in psychology from Georgetown. So tell us a little bit more about how you landed on that major and kind of your experience during your time studying psychology here.
So I came in really thinking that I wanted to be a therapist or a clinical psychologist, so I kind of already had something in mind. I also had, when I was here as a prospective student, sat in on one of Dr. McKenzie's courses, and for those who have taken her classes know she's a phenomenal professor, and so that just reinforced that this was where I wanted to spend a lot of my time in that department. So I really enjoyed all of my classes in that department, but also I appreciated the liberal arts element of Georgetown and being forced to take classes in a bunch of different departments and really learned so much. So
great. And so you talked about Karen McKenzie. Were there any other, and you can talk a little bit more about her if you want, and kind of your relationship since you left, but then if you want to talk about any other kind of maybe standout faculty members, and I know you mentioned a few in your lecture too.
Yeah. So I'm just incredibly fortunate to have built very strong relationships with so many faculty here. There are certainly ones that stand out, and I talked about them today in my talk, but Dr. Brad Hadaway and Dr. Roger Ward in the Department of Philosophy, they were, Dr. Hadaway in particular, investing in me as a scholar and a thinker and really challenging me and challenging what I thought I was capable of doing in terms of just writing and critical thinking and analysis. And Dr. Roger Ward really taught me about vocation and spoke with me a lot about that. I was also an art minor, and Daniel Graham, who is a phenomenal professor. I was here, he came when I was a sophomore, so I was one of his first students, and really fostered my creativity and helped me believe I could do anything. And Daniel's like, if there's a problem, he's going to find a solution. And so I think modeling that for his students and really encouraging you to find that solution of how can you build this thing, or how can you figure out how to make this print line up, or and just being able to apply that to life. Dr. Klopfer, who's not here anymore, but she played a huge role in my development as a person. And then there were both campus ministers, Cynthia Insko, who isn't here anymore, and Brian Langlands, who really invested in me as a person. So.
Okay, and then in terms of Dr. Karen McKenzie, and I know she was probably talk a little bit about how that relationship developed, kind of, maybe even the encouragement she gave you since you were, kind of like in her department, and kind of how you've kept in touch since you left Georgetown.
Yeah, I mean, there's just not enough time to talk about how wonderful Dr. McKenzie is. She was always in my corner from day one here. She just believed in me. She spent a lot of time with me. She encouraged me to ask questions and try new things. And, college is a great time of self-discovery and changing your mind and changing your values. And really, the whole time, I just felt like she was rooting for me. We stayed in close touch after I left. She and I actually handwrite letters back and forth, and that's how we have stayed in touch for 14 years. We continue to write letters. The frequency waxes and wanes, but it's just so nice to feel like I'm in constant conversation with her, to feel like she's still a huge part of my life, that she's rooting for me, and to feel very connected to her in Georgetown, through our letters. And every time I come home, I try to visit her, and as well as Dr. Ward and Dr. Hadaway. She is just an incredible, special person. I remember when I was here, I think it was new student orientation. I'm pretty sure it was Dr. Gamble, who was at the time the Dean of Student Life. And he was introducing Dr. McKenzie, and he said, students try to minor in Dr. McKenzie, meaning that we try to take all of her classes, because she is just that amazing. And it's true. So.
That's awesome. I love the writing letters thing. That's really cool. Okay, so from here, you went on to do your master's degree was it in community psychology? Okay, at University of New Haven. So what kind of led you to choose this school and kind of further your education from here?
Yeah, so like I said, I came into college thinking I wanted to be a clinical psychologist. And then through the Christian Scholars Program, I went on a fall retreat and met Bruce Mean, who runs Urban Promise. And so I went up there for spring break and worked there, and then decided to go there for a summer and intern. And during that time, I think was the first time I really was exposed directly to a city that was struggling with great poverty and violence and food deserts. And it really changed my perspective on kind of really understanding how systems impact health and how systems impact mental health and environmental injustice and discrimination, and how, these kids were dealt hands that weren't fair in a game that was rigged for them to lose. And I really wanted to kind of go upstream and address more root causes of suffering. So community psychology is a great field in that there's still a focus on the individual, so you don't lose that, but it's really in the context of the community and the society. And so I just love kind of working at all three of those levels.
Yeah. And it looks like, it looks like you began at Yale in 2011. So walk me through a little bit about kind of your career path there. I think you've had a few different roles, and then kind of ending with what you do in your current role, maybe even like what you're working on now.
Yeah, so I started out at a place called the Program for Recovery and Community Health, which is in the Department of Psychiatry, as a research associate. And my work there really was community-based research with adults with severe mental illness, some of whom were coming out of the prison system, and really working to help foster a sense of community and belonging. And I also worked on projects related to self-determination. So really helping develop tools for adults with severe mental illness to be more active in their treatment, to have more agency and collaboration with their physicians. So I did that work until 2014, when I really shifted more into women's health. Worked at the Center for Wellbeing of Women and Mothers as a program evaluator. And I evaluated different community mental health programs with children and families. I ran a diaper study where we gave diapers or cash to women who were lower income, who had just had infants, and looked at the impact of these basic needs on child's health and maternal depression. And I was there until 2020 at the start of the pandemic. And I switched over to, in part because, well, funding. But I switched over to where I work now, which is the Family Violence Research Lab, run by Dr. Tammy Sullivan. And there, most of our work is focused on women who are experiencing interpersonal violence or intimate partner violence. And so we do some intervention research, as well as, how do I want to talk about this? We'll just rewind this. I'm going to go back.
Yeah, that's fine.
Let's see. I don't want to have to get into a whole thing. Maybe I'll just say
yeah, you can be like, our research focuses on.
Yeah. So in 2020, I joined the Family Violence Research Lab, where our research is really focused on women experiencing intimate partner violence. And so we have a range of projects there, but that's really our focus.
Okay. So I know you talked about that's kind of what you're focused on. Are there some other projects that are kind of in the works that you're working on, particular research projects that are in development, stuff that you want to maybe work on in the near future?
Yeah, so we're really interested in hoping to get some funding of looking at the impact of relationship conflict and suicidal ideation and behaviors in women. And so, working to design a study and secure grant funding to really explore that. Women's health is really under researched, and in particular with suicide, because men do die from suicide at higher rates than women do. So there's definitely a gap in knowledge there, but really looking at how do interpersonal relationships, and in particular intimate partner conflict, and how does that impact women's health.
Okay. So you've been at Yale and you've been doing this research. How do you feel that, kind of what has guided? I know you've had some, personal experience and thing, but have you been able to kind of determine what research you're going to do and kind of have a voice in that of I think we should, and kind of guide, you said you're looking for funding and all of that. How has your voice kind of helped shape any of these projects?
Yeah. So where I work currently, and at this point in my career where I've gained a lot of knowledge and expertise, I have the great fortune of working with a principal investigator who is very collaborative, and she's interested in doing projects with me. And so actually the suicide grant really came from my particular interest in suicide. So it's not common that the person who's not the director of the lab or the principal investigator gets to collaborate in this way, but I'm really fortunate that I'm in a place where I get to do that.
Yeah, that's great. My husband does research at University of Kentucky, and so he has to do a lot of grant writing and things like that. So it's always the next paper, the next grant, what are we doing? And it's just a constant, kind of thing. But he takes in, a lot of students, and he has a few, kind of senior people and stuff. So they are always trying to come up with kind of new ideas and how to apply them and collaboration. So it's, but they're very passionate about science. So what advice would you give to kind of maybe current psychology majors, people that are looking to kind of find that right career path for them, maybe like kind of guiding them on what to do to kind of find that right path?
Yeah, so I would say expose yourself to as many opportunities as you can in different communities and settings. I came in thinking I wanted to do something, and I was very convinced that that's what I wanted to do, but was fortunate to be given these experiences that shifted how I saw things. And now in my career, I think I said, I never imagined myself as a researcher, but I was exposed to this incredible opportunity and learned about a whole new kind of research I had never heard of, and it just happens to be the thing that gets me jazzed. And so I really would say, be open to new experiences, be open to changing your mind about what you want to do, but take advantage as much as you can of the community around you, the opportunities you're given, and just talk with a lot of people.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I did read, I mentioned I read your article about, your own struggle with mental health and the barriers you faced. So what do you think, kind of if it was a couple changes or changes that could be made to the current healthcare system to maybe help address some of these barriers and make it easier for people to find the right treatment or access treatment?
Yeah, so accessing mental health care is a Herculean task sometimes, and especially depending on where you live can be even more challenging. The healthcare financing and how it's reimbursed, there's typically a whole separate insurance system for mental health care, and there's been some recent studies and recent lawsuits that really show mental health care is often denied by insurers, or you have to wait until it's a crisis, which makes it really, really challenging of, you don't want to wait till you're in a crisis to get help. So I think reconsidering healthcare payment systems and truly applying parity, where mental health is seen on equal basis as physical health and is reimbursed as such, that would go a long way. I also think having more community conversations, being more open about your experiences, learning from each other, and really just trying to break down that stigma will make it easier for people to initiate going and seeking treatment, or talking to someone and asking, hey, can you help me find someone to talk to? Can you help me, get in with a psychiatrist? I'm really struggling. So I think there's, some things that I think are more difficult at a policy level, but there's some things that we can do as a community and society and say, hey, you know what? We're here for you, and we're going to support you and help you get connected to the care you need.
Okay. So when you were a student here, I know that, Bethany and I both have a background, and we were at New Vista, which is a community mental health center here. And, we feel like there have been strides being made in terms of trying to break down stigma and making those things available. And, we were trying to help the counseling and resource center here, like, these resources, need to be out there, they need to be available, and know that there's counseling, and where do they go if they can't get in, and all these things. How do you think things have progressed since you were a student?
I think that there's a lot more public dialogue around mental illness, whether it's at the political level, whether it's our star athletes who are being open about it, people who are successful and have look like they have everything and have made it are also opening up and sharing about their experiences. There was some of that when I was here as a student. I don't want to say there wasn't, but I think there's a lot more of it. There's also a lot more access to stories of folks, whether it's through books or online patient communities, where people share knowledge too of, hey, I'm in Northern Kentucky, and this is a great place to go for mental health treatment, or did you know about this kind of treatment? So just a lot more sharing of information that I think helps break down the stigma, but also just makes it kind of like just a more real life thing.
Yeah, more normalized.
Yeah, more normalized, yeah.
Are there any other kind of special projects at Yale or involvement in your local community that you just want to kind of share? I know we talked about Perch, so I didn't know if there was any kind of project that you want to be like, one thing I'm really proud of is.
Yeah. So I do actually want to talk about the Arts and Literary magazine. So the Perch, which is the place I worked, my first position at Yale, we publish a arts and literary magazine called The Perch, and it is art and poetry and prose and essays, and there's even music if you go to the online version, where people share about their experiences of illness or healing and recovery or hope, or caring for family members, and it's this beautiful, creative endeavor that we've published 5 issues now, and I imagine we'll open up for submissions probably in the fall. But it's just it's been a really fun, creative outlet. It's fun to do something like that in a medical school too. It's not something that I think fits into when you think of Yale and the Department of Psychiatry, you don't think about an arts and literary magazine. So I've just been really proud and lucky to be a part of that.
So are you the editor, or what is your role?
So I was the visual arts editor. So
okay.
Yeah, I was the managing editor for a few issues, but now the visual arts editor.
So I will say that I tried to download an issue and it said it was restricted. I tried 2 different issues. So I wanted to make you aware because I wanted to check it out, but I was like, I can't get it wouldn't come, I couldn't view it. I could see the cover, but then when I tried to click anything, it wouldn't go anywhere. So just a, side note, because I would link, I'd like to link to it. So if that, might just check it out real quick, or have somebody like Karen, check it out and see if she can get to it. So maybe could have been a machine issue. Sometimes it's user error. But, and because we use the same one, I think it's issue, I think that we use for our magazine. So I thought I was doing it, and I was like, I don't know, I can't get it to open. So it was something about restricted use or something, or they haven't made available to download or something like that.
Okay, I'll
Jay, do you have anything else that I know you always have a few surprise questions.
Well, first of all, I love how conversational you are.
Oh,
This is a really good interview.
thanks.
You're genuine. I'm sorry for the interruption. I was about to start coughing, so I had to run out. So I missed some of the questions. You may have asked this, but just curious. What would you say is the, I don't know, numbers, number 1 issue in mental health, or the top 3? I guess what I'm thinking is, within this country, what do you see from your perspective? When I was listening to you a second ago, it occurred to me, why. I'm going to be so ignorant on this, but I can't help that. I don't know what I don't know. But from my perspective, it looks like the state of mental health, not necessarily health care, meaning providers, but seems to be declining. And when I say that, from my view, I'm talking about young people. And there seems to be a population that they're afraid to get help because of pride, for one thing, I think. But that's my perspective. What is yours?
I think we are building a society that is more lonely, that it's more difficult to spend time with people, that it's more difficult to feel like you belong, that, people move away from their families. I moved away from my family, and I think that's a wonderful thing, but I think reestablishing a community is challenging. I think there are less people who are wanting to be involved in faith organizations, but we haven't found any other kind of venue or avenue for bringing people together on a consistent basis. And so I think there's a lot of loneliness, and I think the pandemic has certainly not helped that. I know that I actually have had some social anxiety after the pandemic, of just fear of becoming ill. I do, have some health concerns that put me in high risk, and this wanting to take care of myself, but also knowing that that would come at a cost to my mental health, and having to weigh those risks and benefits. But I do think that we are more disconnected from each other than ever. I think we're more fearful of each other. And I think it's hard to be a human, when you're not in community.
I want to get your reaction to this. It's complicated. You were talking about health, the reimbursement and the billing and all that. But, mental health, it's like, it's complicated from when I look at it, because if you go cut your finger,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to heal,
Mm-hmm.
whether you want it to or not.
Mm-hmm.
For most of the times, that's not necessarily true for mental health, is it?
Yeah, I think that there's definitely some conditions where they're cyclical, and they may resolve on their own, or they may get worse and then get better, and there is some kind of natural resolution. And I think there are some that won't. And I think it's the difference between cutting your finger and cutting your finger off. Sometimes things will resolve on their own and it will heal, whether through time or just different experiences or a shift in perspective or finding a community where you belong. And then there are some times where it requires real medical intervention. I think it's a continuum. Mental health isn't one thing. Even depression isn't one thing. My depression, can look very different than someone else's. And even at different times, it looks very different for me, and I need different things. But it's not as clear as when you have a cut in your finger, or you've cut your finger off. Sometimes it's hard to tell, I can see it getting infected. I can see this, cut getting infected. Okay, I know what I need to do. I need to clean it. I need to wrap it. I need to bandage it and keep an eye on it. Oh, okay, it's getting worse. Okay, well, what's the next step, right? And there's this kind of path we can see and know, and there isn't that in mental health. And it makes it challenging and tricky.
Well, I'm glad you went that way, because after I asked the question, I started thinking, I don't think I asked it quite right, because it was almost like, well, there's just no hope. That's not what I was saying. It was, if you cut your finger, it is going to heal, whether you choose for it to heal or not.
And there's a clear path to heal.
Yes, you answered it very, very nicely that way. But with, let's say, sort of a mental illness injury in a sense, it doesn't necessarily heal on its own.
Right.
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 Yeah. Okay. I'm just making sure I ask that the right way. You mentioned earlier, this is a complete shift. That Transy had nothing on Georgetown. What do you mean? Except their women's basketball is like really, really good, undefeated for like 2 years or something.
Yeah. So when I went to visit Transy, it was lovely. It was fine, but I didn't feel like anyone was excited I was there. And I came to Georgetown, and I felt like they were excited I was there. They wanted to know me. They wanted to know about me. But the thing that really got me was students waved at me on the sidewalk at Georgetown, and no one waved at me at Transy. And I was just like, wow, like I'm not even here yet, and I feel like I belong. And that really struck me, of just, here I was, no one knew me, I was nobody. People saw me and paid attention and said hi. And, you know, the administrators and the students I stayed with and the professors I met were excited I was here. And it is one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we may want to do the Georgetown College. We did this with some alums that are on our board of trustees, starting out by saying, Georgetown College looks like me.
Mm.
And then elaborate a little bit about what that looks like. Maybe even like, you know, I grew up here. I didn't really know, you know, what was going to, you know, cause me to want to come to a college, but how you felt in that moment and what led you to make that decision. So start by saying Georgetown College looks like me, and then kind of elaborate on why Georgetown was for you.
Mm. All right, I'm gonna take a
Yeah, you can think about it. Yeah, we don't have to.
My brain is tired.
Oh yeah, we can end with this too. I think it'll be good. We've done a lot today.
All right. So where do I look? Do you?
Yeah, so this one we'll have her look in the camera, right? Because we're doing videos. What do you want?
Let's see. Where were they looking?
I think they were looking in the camera.
On that one?
Mm-hmm. Because I was like right behind it.
Okay.
We'll do that. So you want her looking right in the lens here?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right.
So you'll just start with Georgetown College looks like me.
I feel so much pressure. I haven't felt pressure until this point.
Yeah, it's more of like a promo type thing.
Yeah. You know.
But again, it's your story. You can't mess up, and we're not live streaming.
Yeah.
You could if you wanted.
No,
it's
thank you.
kind of too late setup.
I was on public radio on Friday.
Yeah.
I didn't like that live element.
Yeah.
Pressure, yeah.
It was very.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see.
And I should say, don't be afraid to repeat things you already said, because that's likely how you would answer this.
Yeah.
Yes.
This would be used separately, yeah.
Yes.
You know, and it could be, you know, that Georgetown College looks like me. I came here with a very strong idea of what I wanted to do in my career, and then I met, you know, these professors, and I was exposed to this, and that's what made me do this, and without that at Georgetown College, that would have happened, you know, or whatever it is. That might be a way to go. Okay, I'm just brainstorming with you.
Well, I'll try something. I'll just like say
Yeah.
things, and then we can do it again if like
Yeah.
that's not what you're going for.
Yep.
Yeah, give us more to work with. Mm-hmm.
Like, which one do we like? All right. Why am I so nervous? Gosh.
Nothing to be nervous about, because if we don't like any of them, we won't use them, right?
That's right.
That's true.
Or if you don't like it.
Yes. If you're like,
The
no.
only difference is you're talking to
Yeah.
this other electronic person over here. I can stand right behind
I was
you.
gonna say, and I could also move over if you feel like you want to like look at me.
Actually, you know, this happens sometimes,
Yeah.
and I've wanted to. Do you ever remember these little things you could stick on the end of pencils? It was like a little people.
Oh.
You know what I'm talking
Yeah.
about? I've always wanted to put one on top of my lens so that you actually have something to look at.
Yeah.
You know,
Rather than the deep
a-
hole.
yes,
versus the
exactly.
lens.
Yeah.
I'm like right behind the lens,
There
so
you
now
go.
I can barely see your face, but.
Um, okay.
Yeah, take a big deep breath.
All right, Ashley, I got it. All right. Okay. Georgetown College looks like me. It's filled with people who are curious and just want to know more, who love stories and people, and want to work to make the world a better place. I'm just gonna stop there because that's all I got.
I like it.
Yeah, too.
Gonna have some short ones, and yeah.
Yeah.
We wanted just to have a variety, so.
This one, I'd like to do another one. No, but this one, trust me. Let's cut out everything except Georgetown College looks like me.
Okay.
Just that
Just
part.
that.
Just that part.
Okay.
Maybe slightly over dramatized. Just a little bit of acting. Maybe.
Like how Georgetown College looks like me.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
We could do the heart and all that too. So imagine, we might, I don't know, we try to record things and give us a lot of flexibility.
Yeah.
So we might put some of these back to back.
Yeah.
Where it's that
Just
repetitive promo
yeah.
that you've seen.
Georgetown
Georgetown
College
looks like me,
yeah.
and then the other person does it.
I love that. I actually really love when people do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think it's very effective.
So we might do that. So
Okay. I mean, I can say it a few times and you can tell
yeah.
me what to
Mhm.
do. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm still nervous. I don't know why.
You can't mess these lines up.
I mean, that's what you think. You haven't seen me yet. Georgetown College looks like me. Okay, no. More? Less?
I think
Yeah,
maybe
that's-
more. Let's try one where you kind of soften at the end. This one was more emphasized, where it's like Georgetown College looks like me, like kind of like, like a softer, almost like yeah.
Alright. I'm really bad at acting.
You're doing fabulous.
Okay. Georgetown College looks like me.
One more.
Softer.
And this one, I don't really have the lights set up for this, but if you will start by looking down and then bring your eyes up to the camera and then give your lines.
Dramatic turn. No.
Yeah, kind of.
Less dramatic.
So Georgetown College and then straight ahead, or
No, just look down,
look-
look up, lock eyes, and then start. Georgetown
Okay.
College is like,
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that's going on the reel though at the end of it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Slow motion too.
Oh, thanks.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure it was beautiful. All right. Georgetown College looks like me.
I like it.
Okay.
Love it.
All
Anything
right.
else you want to talk about?
No, I've talked so
She's
much
talked
about
out.
myself.
Yeah.
It's exhausting.
Good. All right.
All right. Well,
Thank
thank you
you.
all so
All right.
much.
Thank
Get the
you.
mic off
And
of
don't
you.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Let me stop recording here.
And you will send me the